APIs. So you just have a simple handler that says, hey, what
Yo,
is
it's
somebody,
3023, and we're living in the
method been
future.
called?
AI's on the
And then you
rise,
write a
no
simple
more human
function
suture.
to
Machines
layer on
taking
top
over,
of
but not
whatever
like you
we've got
think.
here, list
They're serving up
extractions.
luxury in the
It's
blink of a
hard-coded
twink.
here.
From the streets of Detroit to the depths of the
Looks like what
cosmos,
the
they're
65
preaching a
lines
vision. It's
stay here.
grandiose, it's colossal.
Now,
In the vastness of
there's
space, beyond the
fun
Milky
thing
Way's
here.
bars, communism thrives among the
Why not use
stars.
agents to
Fully
build
automated, no
agents?
labor,
Maybe
no
you don't feel
strife.
like
The machines
you're
do
ready
the
to
work,
build
giving us the good
Why not
life,
have an agent
equality
get
for
that,
all. In
right?
this utopian
So,
dream where love is
right
love
over there,
and everything's
while I
as
was
it
waiting,
seems.
I said, hey, give me a new agent that's going to take new inputs and gives back
Fully automated
happy
luxury
hello,
gay
gives
space
back
communism. A vision so
hello world,
wild,
right?
breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a
Yeah,
brand new
here
rhythm.
we gotta walk
Equality,
through
love
hallucinations
in this
that,
stellar system.
responsible AI.
Stepping on Mars with my rainbow flag high, machines by my side as we touch the sky. No more billionaires, no more class divide. In this brave new world, we all ride the high tide. Forget the old world with its hate and its lies. Here in space, we've cut all the ties. Love who you love, be who you are. In this cosmic dance, you're a superstar. No more hunger, no more pain. AI's got our back through sunshine and rain. A world of abundance for all to share. With machines at the helm, there's love in the air. So here's to the future and the dreams we're chasing in this world of love, in this cosmic spacing. With AI by our side, there's no more schism. Welcome to the era of space communism. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Yo, it's 3023, and we're living in the future. AI's on the rise, no more human suture. Machines taking over, but not like you think. They're serving up luxury in the blink of a twink. From the streets of Detroit to the depths of the cosmos, they're preaching a vision. It's grandiose, it's colossal. In the vastness of space, beyond the Milky Way's bars, communism thrives among the stars. Fully automated, no labor, no strife. The machines do the work, giving us the good life, equality for all. In this utopian dream where love is love and everything's as it seems. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Stepping on Mars with my rainbow flag high, machines by my side as we touch the sky. No more billionaires, no more class divide. In this brave new world, we all ride the high tide. Forget the old world with its hate and its lies. Here in space, we've cut all the ties. Love who you love, be who you are. In this cosmic dance, you're a superstar. No more hunger, no more pain. AI's got our back through sunshine and rain. A world of abundance for all to share. With machines at the helm, there's love in the air. So here's to the future and the dreams we're chasing in this world of love, in this cosmic spacing. With AI by our side, there's no more schism. Welcome to the era of space communism. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Yo, it's 3023, and we're living in the future. AI's on the rise, no more human suture. Machines taking over, but not like you think. They're serving up luxury in the blink of a twink. From the streets of Detroit to the depths of the cosmos, they're preaching a vision. It's grandiose, it's colossal. In the vastness of space, beyond the Milky Way's bars, communism thrives among the stars. Fully automated, no labor, no strife. The machines do the work, giving us the good life, equality for all. In this utopian dream where love is love and everything's as it seems. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Stepping on Mars with my rainbow flag high, machines by my side as we touch the sky. No more billionaires, no more class divide. In this brave new world, we all ride the high tide. Forget the old world with its hate and its lies. Here in space, we've cut all the ties. Love who you love, be who you are. In this cosmic dance, you're a... What up, though? Welcome to a special episode of Globus the Elder. Globus the Elder on a Tuesday. What up, Sarah? I thought that there was a non-zero chance of there was a non-zero chance of Levelhead, let's say, missing the appointment, because they hadn't contacted me all day, and but no, that appears to not be the case. So, I assume Levelhead just has to... And you'd think, Sarah, that would be the thing, right? Let me just remind him the day before. And to an extent, but by the same token, but you're here, and that's all that matters.
AI is ultimately a
16 months.
Exactly who we are.
Look at that. Look at that OG. Thank you, Levelhead. Your continued support really means a lot to me. Yeah, so we're going to be talking with Levelhead in a little bit. I assume that you have to fire up your stuff and get ready to go and like that. Brain no worky good. So we're going to chill, and then whenever you're ready, just do the thing. Jump into any of the voice channels. I don't know if you plan on streaming on your end as well, or if we're just doing it over here. Either way, always fine with me. A little music while we wait. Cool. How is everybody? How you doing? How's your day? I was snow shoveling, so the arms, the pecs, the back. Always lift with your knees. Remember that it's unfortunately common for people to have a heart attack when shoveling snow, because they're putting their body under a great deal of stress over a very quick period of time. So ease into it. Take your time. Pay attention to what your body is doing. That kind of thing. Oh, I love the snow. It is literally my favorite thing ever. I love snow. It's wonderful. I like 1,600 feet of snow. It is great. This is all sarcasm. Snow is literally the worst thing that happens.
That's hyperbolic. But yeah, I hate snow. It's cold. It gets like I don't never have to shovel the sunshine out of my driveway. The sunshine doesn't screw up the streets. Doesn't put people in ditches. None of that. Snow is gross. So we're going to talk to Levelhead, and then we're only going to go for about 2 hours-ish. So we're going to talk to Levelhead for as long as that conversation goes, and then after that, we'll do some video catch-up, and then we'll call it a day, and we'll raid into somebody. Hi, Ferris. If you're new here, this is Ferris. Ferris is a stream cat. This is Ferris's stream. We have a Ferris emote if you're so inclined. And you want to become a subscriber, you get... What up, Boyd? You get Ferris emotes, among others. Like, we have some great emotes up in here, some of them created by the community. What up, Brian?
The thing is, like any other shiny new toy, AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
Hey, thank you for the sub there, Sarah. 6 months. Let's go. We're going to talk about truth, facts, accuracy in journalism. And like kind of rip off that. I can do this. Byronic Fairy Nightmare Dame. What up? Welcome in. Oh. Sabine has had some difficulty, like her video on capitalism. She should, like, on one hand, people need to stretch their wings and, like, you know, try new kind of stuff. And then, on the other hand, maybe stay in your lane if you have no idea what you're talking about. And that's how I feel about Sabine. Like, her video on capitalism is, like, even if you are a fan of capitalism, it is devoid of accuracy to the point where it's a problem. We're probably going to have to watch the one Yeah, like when she sticks in science, she seems to be pretty solid, right? Um, but I don't know. Well, we might take a look at it, or I might take a look at it off stream and see if it's worth our time. I don't tend to go in for dunking videos and that kind of reacts, but you know, I'm not entirely above it if there's something in there to respond to, you know what I mean? Oh, and there's transphobia in her. What up, devil? Um, Devil actually has their own emote. Oh, really? So we just move on from Sabine. Maybe we just good luck with all your future endeavors to Sabine. Look at that face. Look at that Poonam. Look at her face. No, 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 no. Like after the capitalism video, I was like, you went wrong. Like this is not good, right? Not I don't care what your opinion is about capitalism. This is not a good video to talk about it. Your presentation is terrible. You oversimplified things that are really important, and you're doing the thing where like I make apples and they make apples, and my apples are cheaper, and it's just like, dude, don't oversimplify the way you know. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. No, I wasn't talking to you, Google. Paris, tell your hash. Okay. You either settle down or you go somewhere else. What's it going to be? Nope. Nope. Okay. You go up there then. Go on. Go on. You behave. How we coming along, Levelhead? You cannot rub the mic. Okay. I believe in you. It's apparently all the rage. No, see, that's I feel like I'm rewarding bad behavior. If I pet you in order to get you to stop rubbing the mic, then you're gonna draw the wrong lessons from this. Reinforcement learning with human feedback. No, come on. You can't rub the mic, dude. My love for you ends at your lack of professionalism. Ow. And the talons in my chest. Stop. Go ahead. You got something to say? Say something. There we go. She. With her tiny little kitty talons in my neck. Literally has the cutest nose. She's got like a little red nose, and it like friggin' adorable. What up, Iron Orchid?
Yo, yo, I don't hear you. Do you hear me?
Yo.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, give me a second, because you came at me from a different direction. But I can adapt.
You want me to go in your Discord?
No, it's fine. We can do it here.
You want me to go in your Turn off my stream. Turn off your stream in the background. Oh yeah, that's right. My camera is going to be at a like displaying in the middle. I don't think that should matter for your setup, but or displaying is like a vertical instead of landscape.
Portrait.
Let's see. Oop.
There he is. So why are you in portrait as opposed to landscape, if I may ask?
I've been using two webcams, and I have that overhead one, and then I have this one. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've been changing my layout a lot. Part of
Okay.
it is because, like, when I stand up, I like to stand up. Like, my new setup is going to be for a stand-up desk, or standing desk. I guess I could do both, but like when I stand up, like my head is cut off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I like to be able to stand up and like, I don't know. It's kind of cool for OBS. Like I know how everyone kind of uses the, you know, not portrait but landscape orientation, and for obvious reasons. But as far as like building a scene, working with like a portrait is kind of cool. I feel like it gives you a lot of it gives you a lot to work with in terms of like space in your canvas, if we could call it that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine it might make it easier, like, if you're doing like the TikTok or YouTube shorts, things like that, then the orientation is already mapped to what they're trying to pull off.
Yeah, well, that's one thing about like you could do. I mean, Twitch has this like automatic thing. If something gets clipped, you can like edit it into a TikTok now. Just using their little system that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and you can select like what parts of your video are actually gonna get. You can select either one part that's just like the long vertical, or you can select like a sort of a rectangle and then like a longer, vertical one, so you could show off different parts of whatever's on screen. So for that, it does work pretty well. I know I've bitched about this before, like with the with the stories feature that Twitch has now.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It's cool that you can take a clip and like click a button to crop it, but like it's only gonna crop to whatever's right in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
your thing. And it's like, why? Who thought of that? Like, what? Who has just their camera right in the middle? Or like, in what scenario is that going to work? Where just cropping right to the middle and nothing else with no choice? At least let me select part of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll fix that part.
I mean, like on one hand, they might like this. They just rolled it out, and theoretically they could take feedback. But there's also Twitch, who has their mobile. Maybe their
I don't
mobile has
expect
been
much from them.
better lately. I feel like I have had less problems, but that could,
Mobile app.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I remember when they made it so that you could do low latency, and that helped because a big part of like one of the worst parts of being a mobile chatter was like the delay was like an extra 10 or 20 or like 30 seconds even. It could be, at least from my experience, but I think that's pretty much resolved now. Like as far as mobile chatters, they might have a slightly more of a delay, but it would depend more on their like local internet connection now as opposed to like oh my gosh, Sarah, I have my OBS open and like I have to realize that I'm vulnerable to audio sound alert attacks. I'm not going to stream quite yet. I mean, I was thinking about streaming like once we're done. I'll probably start my stream up. But I was going to go post in my Discord. I'll probably record it. I'm assuming you don't mind that, obviously, but
No,
that way
absolutely.
Sarah could do a little segment from it.
Yeah. No, and if you do that, like we're gonna have our conversation, and if you want to fire up after that, then after I'm done, I can just raid into you. I won't be going super long. Um,
Cool. Yeah, that's sounds good. Do.
you're the reason I have all this audio crap around me now. Like, I have, I have these which convert the 1/8 into the was it 1/4. You know,
Uh-huh.
those kind of adapters. I've got a whole friggin' thing here that shit's plugged into. It's like, Jesus Christ. You set an unrealistic standard for me, sir.
Well, I have an unrealistic standard for myself, so that tracks. I just I don't know. What can I say? Wait a second. What is going on here? What is going on here? Stupid OBS. Why you
What up,
like
Miss
this?
Dove?
At least you can hear me.
I
Guess that
can.
matters. I guess that's all that matters.
Uh oh.
Freaking OBS, dude. Would you like the program to work? Yes. Give me that option, OBS. Give me that error message. Error. Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm not recording right now, but I'm assuming Sarah could get the video from you if she wants to, if you wanted her to do a segment. I think I have 2 segments with you already that are on my YouTube.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw it up. What happened? What is going on? Did I lose you? Uh oh. What did you do, Sarah? You did something. Because now there's no level head. Oh,
Hello?
I got noise.
Yo, sorry, my Discord fucking crashed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And start virtual. Okay. Do. Okay. We back?
We back.
We back. Did you buy all that audio stuff because you're trying to do something in particular, or are you just like I'm
Yeah, so like one of the things I have I have this thing called Drop Mix, which is it's supposed to be a game, but what I've always used it for is making like doing loops and like mashup loops. Basically,
Okay.
there's these of you turn away. So there's this board which currently has cat hair all over it. So don't. There's this, right? And so in each of these spaces, you play a playing card that has an RFID chip in it, and that RFID chip contains a bit of like music, vocals, drum beats, guitar, that kind of stuff. And so in the game, you know you're playing it, but I just do it because I like to do mashups and that kind of thing. What up, Adam? And then I've also got like um BandLab on my iPad, which I can use to do loops. And I like to make music and beats and like that, not on like a professional level, but like I could do some stuff. And
Yeah, I think I remember playing something that you made like a while ago, a
yeah,
long time ago.
yeah, and that everything's on my SoundCloud that I make and then record.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, I like to screw around.
That's what I feel like I'm always doing. Even when I'm even when I'm professional. Like, I'm just screwing around. There we go. Cool. All right. Yeah, I kind of want to get more beat making stuff. Like, I want to get a beat pad. I got this drum kit, but I
Oh
want
yeah,
like a
yeah.
little MIDI controller or something. I mean, technically that can do it, but
I got an Akai
oh,
APC Mini.
uh-huh.
I got that for my birthday. I've done a little bit with it, but I haven't done a whole lot. I just learning to use a new thing, but
Yeah.
I just
It's
want to do that shit.
fuck it. I mean, yeah, it's like kind of difficult to. There's just I don't know anyone even that like one device itself. You could just sort of rabbit hole into
Mm.
that, and it's hard when you have a lot going on. But it's nice to have it, and like at some point you'll probably find a lot of time to work with it. That's what I say to myself about all of my various things. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Huh. I think this is my Discord. Oh, there it is. All right. Well, I have a recording started, and I'm ready to talk about whatever, whenever.
Cool.
But I don't know if you have any other preemptive things. I know
No.
that we're just going to talk about, like you said, what was it? Accuracy and facts,
Well,
something like that. I wouldn't know anything about that.
truth, facts, and accuracy in journalism, because ultimately those are three different things. When it comes down to it, um, and one of the things that I've seen at various times from various people is how they can be willing to abandon one or more of those concepts if it suits their needs, regardless of which part of the political spectrum they're on, right?
Yeah.
Like during the WGA strikes, there was a thing that came out that and it was only like I think I don't want to say it was Deadline. But it was somebody. One organization had a anonymous quote from an alleged studio executive who said that they were basically going to outweight the writers until they they started being short on rent and that kind of stuff, and and the impression was that they were going to outweigh them until they didn't have any money anymore. And this really galvanized a lot of people around that movement, that particular thing. Like it seemed to indicate that there was like an inhumanity in the studio executives. The problem I had with that particular thing was that it was only traceable back to this one article and this one anonymous source, right? Like, so there wasn't any like independent verification, there wasn't a corroboration, anything like that. And it seemed awfully convenient, in the terms of propaganda for something like that to happen. So, and like when I would bring that aspect up, people didn't seem to care, right? Because they didn't like the studio executives and because they could see exactly. So where would you come down on something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, admittedly, like I'm still biased in that way. If I go out there and if I read something that I'm liable to agree with because I want to, because it lines up with my, pre-existing belief system or morals, my ethical standards, like, of course I'm going to jump on it and believe it, especially if it's something that, like, even if that article isn't sort of like rigorously cited, or if there isn't other types of verification that it could go through, like the one you're mentioning. If it lines up with something that I generally know to be the case, like, for example, that people in positions of power, particularly those who like have employees underneath them, or people who are owners even of companies. Like I generally believe it to be the case, and I believe it to be true, and could say that it's like sort of a recurring uh, theme or something that we see across industries, across examples. In that case, I could say like I'd be liable to believe it based on past experience and what I know to be true. In other instances, um, and just because I like, you know, like in some cases I want to believe it because that's where the bias really is like I want to believe it because believing it also is believing that I'm correct in general about my opinions on things, which everyone kind of wants to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say though that like that's where this is exactly where a reporter's job, like this is where a reporter's job begins, is like everyone has that human bias and that tendency to believe things that they want to believe and that align with what they already believe to be true. And that could be a good way of going about it, especially if you're somebody who bases your uh you know, your standard for defining something as true in reliable methods. Like if you're, you know, if you're using evidence, for example, facts, if you're trying, if the things you generally believe are true and they're true, and you also are using like a consistent standard for determining truth, that could be a good standard. But the journalist's job is to, and I don't know if I like to say reporter now. I don't know. Apparently, journalist could also mean like I always say Barry Weiss isn't a journalist
Mm-hmm.
because she's an opinion writer, but then people are like, technically, that's journalism because and I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. She's a journalist. I don't give a fuck. She's not a reporter or whatever. um, but that's where the job is for them, is to be like, okay, well, here's what I believe to be true. Here's what's generally true. And like, I use my personal bias and my um, determinations of what is true uh, based on prior experience and things I've learned. Um, I use that to guide my decision making process during reporting, and to know like if I have a hunch about something, like if these people seem suspicious, if their behaviors are, you know, leading me to think that maybe they're being corrupt or they're lying or they're doing this or that, like I'm going to follow that. And that's sort of more of like an intuition thing that I think is probably I would say undervalued or underemphasized in terms of like determining what's true, that sort of like gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, like that's what's nice about like being a Twitch streamer or like anything else really, like not being like specifically a reporter,
Mm-hmm.
is that like you're not really held to the standard of like you better fucking get this right. And even nowadays, like I don't know, one of the only things that keeps me in that sort of space now is that like I'm writing for a newspaper that's been around for 138 years, like, and that, you know, has all this community sort of trust and like it's established and all that stuff. But, you know, then I look back and I think like, has every reporter who's ever written for this paper, like every significant story that affected people's lives, blah, 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 did they always get the facts right? Were they always, of course not. And like, this especially comes up when we look back at, you know, when white people first arrived in this part of the, you know, the continent. Like it was not just bad reporting. It was literally whitewashing history and like only writing down the white people's perspective, which was very fucking racist. So yeah, I guess like as far as that article, like I would lean towards believing it myself, but like you are correct technically that like, you know, you should corroborate it more if you really want to know. And I guess at the end of the day, like doesn't matter. I don't want to say the truth doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter uh unless some sort of like action is going to be taken from this point, or like you know, I guess it matters if maybe there's some sort of monetary thing happening from this point. Like, are you going to support? What was the outcome again? With this whole thing, like the editors were basically trying to impose their, or not the editors, the owners. They were trying to impose their whatever beliefs on the like writers, and there was a strike. Or could you explain that to me again? Because
It
it
was
sounds really familiar.
yeah,
I don't remember.
the WGA strike was their union came up for a contract
Oh,
and
WGA.
yeah, and that's
Okay, so this is just a general story, like example of like whether a story is corroborated.
yeah, and like on one hand, it's like who would come out and just say something like that? But then I too have seen examples of executives say things like I saw that some guy talking about like people need to get back to work and yada yada and like so it isn't beyond them to just go off the cuff like that and
Yeah.
just say whatever. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. It was just it seemed like a combination of like super convenient the timing and and like that. And my concern with all these kind of things is that I want to be on the side of the righteous.
Mhm.
I want my like if I state something as fact, if I have a position or something like that, I want it to be unassailable. I want it to be like that. This is the truth. This is what happened.
Yeah.
I want to support the WGA because they are members of the working class, and I believe that they should get fair compensation and that they should get a contract and everything else. If we are going to lie, right, or accept untruths as part of that pathway to me is like it allows the door to open for a lot more convenient lies, right? Like where you can just lie
Yep.
about anything
Yep.
if you're trying to get it across. And if we're just going to lie in the same way that, people on, let's say, the other side have no problem lying, right? And
Yep,
that's the
of course not.
justification, right? Like well,
Yeah.
they lie all the time, so we can lie. I don't want to do that. That's the whole point
Yep.
behind my life is I don't want to do that.
Man, it's so hard because it's like it's just like one of those ethical conundrums, really. Like I generally agree with you. It's not like I'm upset. It's not like have some obsession with like truth and facts and blah blah blah. Like there's a lot of there's even like you said, even in the definition of those words, like there's a lot of presuppositions. Like there's a lot of assumed. There's a lot of things sort of underlying that you could explore further. But like I still would agree that like if we're talking about fascism in particular or authoritarianism, like the lying or the I guess stretching of the truth or even things like doublespeak, like redefining language or using language incorrectly is such a core component of those ideologies from my understanding that like that's where I think it's one of those things where it's like it's like Lord of the Rings shit where like the lying is powerful. Like you are redefining language. These are powerful psychological tools and like you can really accomplish a lot by redefining language or making language blurry, and not allowing things to be sort of called out or called what they are, calling a spade. Like when you remove the ability to do that among like a broader population or from people who specifically work in an industry where that's their job, like suddenly you can't really call a spade anymore. You can't call a fascist. You can't call out things that need to be called out because like you're just going to spend all your time fucking bickering over definitions and like that's exactly where we are though now. Like that's all we fucking do is like argue about like definitions of this and that and what meanwhile like the fascism is happening, the authoritarianism is happening, the genocide is happening, like that stuff is literally happening and we're like still in our neoliberal bullshit, like we're still out here like arguing over words because like the truth of what is and what isn't has been successfully like subverted. So yeah.
And that's like in the AI space, I run into this a lot, is that people don't have an agreed upon definition of some of these things, and they are living and dying on those definitions. Like artificial intelligence. This word intelligence is a sticking point for a lot of people where
Right.
they're like,
Yeah.
it's not actually intelligent. And okay, like before we can even talk about whether or not it's intelligent, what do you mean by that, right? Like, what is your definition of intelligence that it's not meeting? And until I know that, we can't talk about whether or not it's intelligent. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, this is why I just don't talk. This is why I just don't talk anymore.
you
Club.
just sit there quietly, fire up the stream, and just
Like,
stare blankly at chat.
Just gonna rap words that may or may not make sense. Yeah, no. But honestly, though, that's the reason I say that is just because I was thinking like that's why I don't go into that sort of tangent when I'm talking about AI.
Mhm.
Is because like I don't know what my definitions are for any of those things. Like I don't. At the end of the day, it doesn't. I guess it's also I think about talking to like any buddy who doesn't pay attention to AI or have any background or interest in it. Like I feel like I'm sort of behind the ball on that, and I've been interested in like computer science and AI since I was like a kid. So I definitely understand these like sort of underlying things that you're talking about, or like even getting into like what is intelligence and what is like consciousness or self-perception or sentience and all of that. Like I've been thinking about that stuff for a while, but like when I think about talking to somebody who's even further behind the ball on that stuff than I am, like I recognize that they're just not going to have any, like you're trying to build off of no context
Mhm.
about something where we're at this like in these deeper conversations. And so I haven't really tried to figure out like how to talk about AI other than just being like, bro, check this out. Looks
Right.
cool. Because that's where I feel like people are at. And then on the other hand, there's people, screaming about the end of the world, which, I mean, fair enough. Like, shit's pretty fucked right now, and deteriorating. But maybe the hope is in the machines. Save us.
I mean, my hope is definitely in the machines, but like what I really come down to, and this has had to be brought up multiple times on my stream lately, is that there's is statements and ought statements. Like there is the way the world is, and there's the way that the world ought to be, depending,
Yeah.
on who's saying it. And I feel like there are people who romanticize, for lack of a better word, romanticize leftism and this kind of thing to the point where they detach themselves from the way that the world is. And that's a problem if you're trying to reach people. It's like, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish here? And
Yeah.
that defines how you're going to act within this space. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, it's not just a problem for reaching people; it's a problem in general because it's a problem for your perception of what a good society is, or like whatever leftist utopia you want to reach, whatever you're striving towards. And I'm all for striving. Like I dream big. I think we should abolish the state and have like have no money and all of that shit. Like I no borders, fuck borders, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to identify a problem, if I'm going to identify like how that's where I want to go. Well, if you're trying to go somewhere, like you need to know where you're at first. Like
Right.
if you're looking at a map, I want to go here. Okay, well, where are you? If you don't know where you're at, then you can't go anywhere. Like because you don't even know where you are. So that's what I would say about like not understanding how things currently are, or even like yeah, sort of shaming people for participating in a system to whatever extent, where it's like, this is where the system is now. You need to understand that. You should understand it better than anyone if you want to actually like dismantle or reverse engineer or whatever your way towards something that is better in your, you know, in your worldview.
Mm-hmm. And that's like, again, that's where I come back to the idea of standing on truth or factual statements or things like that. And again, like, I'm not saying that that article, for instance, couldn't have happened or anything in that. It's just to be as skeptical of things that agree with you as you are of things that disagree with you. You know, and I don't think that's an unreasonable ask. You're muted.
All right, I don't think it's unreasonable either. Like, it might be easier said than done. I mean, you're never really going to be objective, like one way or the other, but it's just a standard you can sort of, at the very least, you should be saying, is this really true?
Right.
At the very least, you should be saying, is this really true? Yeah. Like, that's all there is to it. I don't know. People don't do that a lot of times. They don't even take that step. They're just like, did you hear about this? Da 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 da. And you're like, okay, let's slow down
Right.
just a little bit.
In your reporting career, has your, like, do you try to present your articles as unbiased as possible, or do you allow that bias to come through?
Yes, I try to do it. I try to report unbiased as possible. I think that like it just sometimes that's not even really a relevant consideration like throughout most of the article.
Mm-hmm.
For example, today right before this I went to this antique store and I might go there again tomorrow actually. I'm gonna see if I could stream it because like it's like ADHD heaven. I didn't realize that about antiques or whatever like until recently. But anyways, I went there and I'm just reporting on like their history, you know, how they got this building, you know, their interest in antiques, the different categories, blah 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 blah. And like for that story, there's not a lot of consideration that needs to be made about whatever objectivity, anything like that. It's just pretty straightforward. There's not like an opposing thing. I guess maybe if I'm trying to like define something, and you'll always find things that are controversial, like you know, in the antique world, something's considered antique if it's 100 years old out here in the West, but on the east side of the country, it has to be 200 years old. Like, so there are things like that like you want to be aware of, and you want to try and make sure that you give perspective to.
Yeah,
But
no, I
like,
could see I could see people on Twitter firing off about the age of the antiques.
I mean, you're always going to have speaking of definitions, you're always
Yep.
going to have the like word STEM lords and the definitions people and the fucking nerds in every category who'll be like, technically that's wrong because, and you're like, okay, Mr. Person or whoever, like whoever it is that has studied this one very niche particular subject for like your whole life is just popping the fuck off. And it's like, I literally wrote this story in a day, sir.
Mhm.
So chill out. But yeah, I guess in terms of things where it's been presented unbiasedly, I mean, probably the most prominent examples are my stories about oil and gas
Mhm.
and my stories about the county commissioners,
Mhm.
the prior county commissioners. Because with oil and gas, like, I am very biased against the oil and gas industry, like hella bias. Like fuck the oil and gas industry. I'll just like that's what I say.
Right.
You know, like they can burn in hell. Just kidding. But like seriously though, I really despise them and their you know business activity and the things that they have done to on this very. I mean, this is it's not just about environmentalism. It's actually about the subject that we're talking about too. The oil and gas industry is one of the most responsible, culpable industries or groups of people for this situation we now find ourselves in, where like we don't agree on reality, or like we can't agree on a base level of factual information, because the oil and gas industry goes around actively perpetuating, funding propaganda to make people believe that climate change isn't real, and that like a wide variety of things. But that one climate change not being real, or like global temperatures increasing, not really, whatever. It's all fucking blurry, right? Like in the way that they communicate about things. But it's such a fundamental core thing that is like, it's when you can see in front of you, when you can see in reality outside, like you can look outside, you can look out the fucking window and be like, this shit is weird. Something's happening out there. And then you're told that that's not really happening. That's such a it's so mind-shatteringly like bad. It completely breaks perception of reality, and like it cascades onto all of these, categories of like whether or not the election was stolen, or whether or not the COVID vaccine has 5G chips inside of it, or whether 5G is bad, or like everything is just so fucked on the truth scale in that way. And so, anyways, I'm going on a tangent about why I hate the oil and gas industry. But I just realized I realized that as I was saying it, like that's a huge thing, because they're so responsible for that. Like, and I guess like so that's my bias towards them, right? But like when I report on the industry, the bias would come in where the main bias that I have is what I'm reporting on. And what I'm reporting on is all the bad shit they do. Like it's not like I'm reporting on like how great they are, but they have a fucking PR department for that. Like they can send us a press release that says we gave $60,000 to the town so they could buy new dispatch walkie-talkies or whatever the fuck, right? Like radios, walkie-talkies. That'd be funny if they called it that. Is that just like a toy name for radios?
I think
Or
it goes back to where like your CB type radios and whatnot, they were in the car, and this was a
right.
handheld device that you could walk and talk at the same time.
Right.
So it was the walkie-talkie.
Okay. Well, radios are expensive. In case anybody didn't know, those fucking dispatch radios are not cheap. But so hey, thank God for the oil and gas industry coming in to save the day. Here's $60,000. Like, but so in the process of reporting on like fracking contamination, or like spills of spills of toxic waste and shit like that. Obviously, I'm already biased in the fact that I'm even reporting on that. Or am I though? Because nobody's talking about it. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I could report on how many jobs they have brought to the county over the last whatever. Like, no matter what I report on with the oil and gas industry, it's just going to be like, I'll just try to say the facts and like make sure that I've given them ample opportunity to like respond to whatever it is that I'm reporting on. So that way, if I'm saying in 2019, the industry spilled 700,000 plus gallons of toxic fracking byproduct in these two counties, like, I could be like, hey, so what is your response to this? That gives them the opportunity to say that's wrong, or hey, you should include the fact that, like, for example, a certain percentage of those spills are just marked as spills, but they're actually contained within secondary containment and like don't actually go into the ground or whatever. Like they could provide clarification, nuance, and they could also respond if I, for example, go out and interview an activist who's like who says whatever the fuck they want to say. And then they could respond, whoever's representing the oil and gas industry in that sense could respond. But, the oil and gas industry doesn't respond to questions about contamination, because why would they? They just prefer to never talk about it. And if they ever spill like a significant enough amount of toxic waste on somebody's property, then they'll just fucking shuffle on in. Hey, you want to? We got some land right next to you. You want to swap real quick? Here's an NDA, and then you never hear about those things. The only reason we even know about one of the biggest ones is because this guy was trying to sell his property and like he lost all the value in his property because like the natural spring, was completely contaminated by whatever company it was. So like I know there's significantly more of that contamination that exists, but and then the other one is with the county commissioners, where we had this like just a real fucking mean guy, a real asshole. One of the main commissioners. I mean, they would always, like talk shit about the newspaper during public meetings and stuff. And like, whatever, we could take it. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. But you go, like, you and all the rest of the boomers in the Facebook comment section go off. Like, I don't give a shit. But like, when it's a county commissioner, that's when I'm like, we're a private business and you're a public official, like trashing a private business, which, like, in your official capacity is not something you should be doing.
Right.
But like, so I had a bias against him for sure. And I also had to sit through budget reporting, which I just got done with, and we just had a discussion about. I sat through budget reporting with him, extending the length of every meeting by asking dumb questions repetitively, just not knowing the process, and also disingenuously, like, really using the budget process as a way to like fire people that he didn't like. And like, it was just bad. It was bad shit. And every time I tried to talk to people within the county, like county employees, they were always afraid to talk to me. Wouldn't matter what it was about. It didn't have to be, it didn't have to be like fucking something crazy, like what's going on there. Just like, hey, I wanted to ask you blah, 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 blah. Oh, you have to go through this person. And they would be scared. And that's when I was like, something is fucked up here. Like, there's a culture of fear within the employees here, and like it's not normal. Like I've reported on plenty of governments before, town councils and whatever. So I started interviewing people who would talk to me, some off the record, some on the record, and like it all stemmed from the fact that they didn't renew or reappoint the road and bridge director. So like technically, they didn't fire him, but they're supposed to reappoint them every year. And it was his last year before he's about to retire. They didn't reappoint him for his final year, and so he went off and like basically started telling everything that happened to him at the county, and initiated a recall campaign against the sitting county commissioner. There's a bunch of other shit that happened, like they tried to oust the public health director because she was advocating for masking and vaccinations, and like, they tried to frame her basically, or they tried to set her up as like somehow trying to undermine the local hospital, and like they didn't have any evidence for it, but they were going to try to fire her like in private during a certain an executive session, which she requested to be in public. And like, so there's this public meeting of the county commissioners, like just making assholes of themselves, like, and her defending herself and her department every step of the way. So I had a lot of, like I had my own bias against them, and continue to have that against any government official who like actively does sus shit all the time and like hides it to the best of their ability, and then pretends that they don't whenever they talk to me, pretends that we're friends. But I guess I do that too. Like I have a bias towards them, and I had a particular bias towards him, a personal one. But I still did make an effort again to reach out and say, here's what I'm reporting on. Here are my whatever. These are my statements. And like, he says I didn't give him enough time to respond, but it's like, dude, I don't know. You've known that I was writing this article like for a long time. So you should have got back to me. I don't know. That's on you. Like, so then he went off on Facebook, and like, I guess according to him, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, like, according to him, I didn't, I didn't give him a chance to say his piece or whatever. But like,
Mhm.
we were publishing his letters to the editor, editorials that he was writing about the whole thing. Like, he had a space. He had his space to talk. The only thing he didn't want was to talk to me on the phone, where I could be like, okay, so that thing you just said doesn't make sense because of da 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 da. I mean, you've seen me do it before,
Right.
probably. Like, he didn't want that thing to happen. He didn't want to be interrogated by me. He wanted me to email the questions and respond, like, basically after consulting a lawyer or something. It's like, no, I want to know the truth, and you don't want to give me the truth, so you're going to say that I'm biased against you, when in reality you just can't fucking take the heat, bitch. Okay. But yeah, he did get recalled, by the way. Just in case you didn't know that. I don't saying it's my fault, but I definitely was part of the, spreading information about how he behaved as a boss and county commissioner, which previously had not been detailed to the extent that I did.
And do you feel that job of, like, your position in that scenario is something that a journalist, reporter, whatever word we're going to use, is that part of the job to make those kind of things known in that way, or, like, it is not beyond a newspaper to go after a particular person that they don't like for whatever reason. Do you feel that there was anything incorrect about what you and your newspaper did in that circumstance?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's definitely a good question, though, because, like, yeah, like, we definitely use discretion. It's not like we always report on every bad thing that everyone ever does.
Mhm.
Like, we definitely, especially in a small community, right? Like, we don't, we make every effort to, my mom talks about this all the time, and she'd be an interesting person to interview on the same subject. But, like, as the editor, she has to decide, like, is this worth reporting on, or are we just going to cause so much, like, strife in the community that it's not, like, what are we actually doing? And a lot of times we don't, unless it's something that people need to know,
Mhm.
or it's something that, like, people do know something is happening, and we need to make sure that they're aware of, like, we need to get as many facts out there as possible that we can find, because the rumor mill will make things significantly worse for that person or whoever's involved. Like, it'll just become impossible to know what the fuck's going on, because it'll just be all rumors flying. If nobody ever comes out and tells what the hell is going on, then, like, it's just all rumors. So for that reason, like, that's normally why we'll publish things, but sometimes we leave stuff out. I mean, it's interesting. I guess on that story in particular, like, ideally, okay, to answer your question before I go off on this tangent, ideally, ideally we wouldn't be in this scenario where we're, like, I don't know, sort of reporting on somebody who we're actively, like, against, so to speak.
Mhm.
But, like, that story would have gone so much differently if he, first of all, wasn't constantly, like, calling us fake news and saying all this bullshit. Like, if he would have ever just talked to me, like, I would have had so much different an opinion of him, likely, if he had sat down and had a discussion with me. Like Alden Vandenbrink at the Conservancy District.
Mhm.
Like, he is suspicious to me in so many ways, but, like, I still kind of, like, it's easy for me to humanize him as someone I've talked to a lot of times, and to, like, give him the benefit of the doubt. Somebody who will never talk to me, who is just a face, only interaction I have with them is, like, email or whatever. Like, and then and then hearing them talk shit, like, publicly, like, it's harder for me to, like, humanize them. So I guess, like, ultimately, in best case scenario, you know, I wouldn't be reporting on somebody who I dislike, or whatever, like, because that increases my bias towards them. But I think to on the other hand, I also hold myself to a high standard, and like I know when I'm reporting, especially on something like that, like I better not I better not fuck it up. I guess like there's some level of protection for reporters. They can't sue me for libel or whatever, which there's a lot of protection actually. Um, and that's great, but like I don't know, like I don't want to be the one who slanders somebody or whatever. I want to know that, especially if I'm feeling sort of like righteous, and that's where my bias is. If I
Mhm.
feel like I'm in the right on what I'm reporting on and what I'm telling people, like I want to make sure that like I'm as correct as possible, and I've looked into every angle, and I'm not putting things out there just because I'm biased. I think I would argue that more bias comes more often from like laziness, either laziness or less laziness, more like lack of time, deadline. Like
Mhm.
that's where bias comes from more, is like I've done all this reporting, the story is due. I could spend another week digging into more, and maybe I'd find more nuance or context or whatever that would like make this less bias in one way or the other. But
Yeah,
you can only do so much.
you brought up about the the timelines and the deadlines, and I'm listening to an audiobook on strategy, and this guy who's doing the book covers like just this incredibly wide variety of circumstances, like business and politics and like left wing politics, right wing politics, just all this different stuff. And I'm amazed at how much is crammed into this book and how nobody I know of has read it. But today, he ended up talking about Lee Atwater. You're familiar with Lee Atwater in relation to like Ronald Reagan?
Oh, you'd have to jog my memory. I know the name and I know it, but my brain's not
Yeah,
connecting that.
he's the guy, the most famous like interview quotey thing is he was using a derogatory term for black people,
Huh.
and like as part of getting people elected. And the point is that he used to handcraft these editorials or these news stories, these press releases, and get them to the reporters when like their deadlines were coming up.
Yeah.
And with the explicit intention of being able to slide stuff by because you don't have time to fact check, you don't have time to do any of that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And like that is do you think that that is a contributor to the way that print media has fallen off in addition to being consolidated and everything else? Like is print media suffering from that loss of like where you can trust them, you know what I mean?
Mm, uh, okay, I'm not sure if I understand the question as being like,
Yeah, it was kind of rambling.
well, so like there's the deadline thing, right? Like because that is a way that print media has a disadvantage, which is like, I mean, we're a weekly paper.
Mhm.
Um, I guess even with a daily paper, like you're writing up till deadline, and like that's always going to be a limitation, is like that I guess, whether you're taking a press release or and publishing it, or actually writing something, like there's always stuff that can slip through. And like, generally speaking, like good journalists, that's the main thing that they're worried about all the time, is like, did I get this right? Did I get that right? Like what could I have missed? Did I miss a major perspective? And like, yeah, like that's definitely an issue. I guess the broader issue there is like, for one, there's a media literacy thing here, which is like if you're reading something, know if it's a press release. It should be marked as a press release. Like, it shouldn't be press releases should not be in the same area as reporting. Even though, like, as far as information goes, like we get press releases from the BLM or whatever, the Bureau of Land Management. We get press releases from like Forest Service or even like local law enforcement, whatever. And a lot of times they can just be good informational pieces. Like they can be like places to go camping or like don't do this thing at this time of the season because of whatever environmental factors. Like, and it's coming from people who are experts on the subject, or they have a PR person who's basically doing the reporting work or something similar to it within their specific niche or like, their industry.
Mhm.
And that, like, there's nothing wrong with that. We publish a lot of press releases and they help us fill up the paper. But yeah, I mean, they're press releases at the end of the day. I don't think we're even vetting them necessarily. Like, of course, they'll get read, they'll get proofread. Like, we're not going to publish something crazy, but like, I wouldn't say that it harms the credibility of print journalism that, there were sort of like articles being published. At this point, it's just it's so irrelevant in the context of like all the content that's out there and like where people are getting their information. Like, I mean, there's just so much. As far as trustworthiness goes, like, you couldn't even compare to something like nightly news or like even news programs where it's like, the nice thing about a newspaper or like print is that you have an article, and it's just the article sort of stands alone, or it's part of like a page, or it's part of a website. But like a newscast, right? A newscast is like, ideally, like if you look at like the way NPR does their newscasts, or like on your local radio station, the way that might be presented, it's very non-biased and very like straightforward. Although even NPR, especially when it comes to election shit, like I remember the 2020 primaries, because I was at the radio station, the Democratic primary, like whenever they talked about the Democratic candidates, they would say shit where I was just like, fuck you, dude. Like, fucking, they would always say some shit about Bernie Sanders. I don't even remember. Like, I just remember being like, okay, they slip it in, right? Like,
Right.
but TV is the worst with that, where there's framing and there's like a personality, and they're like, the way that they talk about things is, it's all within the context of like that news anchor and like the show, and like a lot of times to me it just seems like the framing of things and the bias and like the whatever is implied is so much more significant when it comes to like a TV broadcast than it is with print, where it's just words and you can kind of like read the facts, judge it on your own. But even with words, you can frame things very poorly, bury the lead, bury the most important information like 3/4 of the way down, all that stuff. So yeah, at the end of the day, you just need to know how to read information and like judge it and then vet it yourself. Like learn how to understand if things are being said in a non-biased way.
Yeah, I always assume if anyone's telling me anything, it is a propaganda, and I use that in like a definitive sense rather than like a pejorative sense. Like anyone who takes the time to tell you anything is doing a kind of propaganda, and therefore you need to understand you're being sold something at this point in time.
Yep.
So another question based off what your response there, and kind of like a sub question to that, is it possible that we, in this age of the internet and cell phones and instant access to all these things, that we are receiving too much information? And I guess
we are.
the sub question to that is like where we get information, like, but we don't have actionable information, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna do what I always do, which is shill for local journalism. But like, that's where, yes, there's too much information. Like, which the way that I've experienced that personally is using it as a way to not process my feelings, like, or like deal with my shit, right? Like, I'll just always have a podcast. I'll always have a Twitch stream. There's always something to distract me from like being alone with my thoughts and like reflecting on things. And I've gotten better about that, but especially during certain times, like it became this whatever, just this endless barrage. You know, if you're somebody who really cares about particular issues, like that can work in the reverse way where like you're working yourself into depression and everything else because like ultimately if you really want to know, there's bad fucked up shit happening to every extent that you could possibly fucking imagine all the time, and like you can go find information about it, and like it's happening and it's fucked up and it's really sad and horrible. You know, conversely, you can find really awesome things that are happening everywhere, but like that can be a real challenge or a result of all this information. I guess like with that said, it's like how do you, if you're somebody who cares about things, then like you're gonna have to spend your time, you're gonna have to spend your energy wisely. Like you're gonna have to figure out what kind of information are you interested in, where can you contribute if that's what you want to do. Like why are you consuming the information in the first place, I guess is the question that I would ask. Like this is where I get to local news, because like if you have a local paper or a local newsroom or anything like that, if you're reading it, and you might just be reading it for entertainment, but like a lot of times people who are reading it, it's they want to know what's going on. Like what did the town council do? You know, what's the new business? What's the new that? Like, because that allows you to be part of a community. It allows you to like understand how you can go out and participate if, you know, you need to participate. Like if, for example, the town council is like, hey, we have open spots on the planning commission, and you have planning experience, and you happen to have values about like planning and like how planning and zoning should be different because of how you feel about unhoused people, or like how you feel about you know, urban sprawl or whatever it is. Like that's how you figure out how to participate, and you don't have to have a newspaper to do that, but like that's, you know, that's getting towards that thing of like how do you spend your energy, or why are you consuming this information. Like I would say whatever information you're consuming, you should figure out what's happening around you. Like you should start there, maybe. I don't know, that can be hard too. Like maybe the area around you sucks, but everywhere kind of sucks, so get used to it. It's all boring, like it's boring shit probably, but like at least a general awareness. And like, you know, if you're just consuming information because you want to be the most knowledgeable so that you can fucking destroy other debate bros in your debate bro debates, then like it doesn't really matter. Whatever, like go off, I guess. I don't really have time for that personally, much as I want to always be right about things. Like, and if you're just doing it for entertainment, then whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, but I would say figure out what's happening locally. Make sure you're understanding like where you should be involved, where you could be involved, where you could actually like use said information to, you know, help or apply yourself. And then from there, I would say like it's based on interest. Like obviously you're probably reading a lot of stuff about AI and like consuming that information, and then like I think it's great that you're taking that and then you're further educating people or breaking things down for people, because like that's where I guess that's where the sort of action needs to happen, or like where people can get involved, especially in this realm, is like we need more reporter. I mean, like we need more local news, big time, and that's a whole systemic thing. Like, but even if you're gonna pick a topic, it doesn't have to be something local. Um, if you're the kind of person who can consume information and like help distill it, and you're working from the perspective of like, I'm gonna try and be as accurate as possible, try not to misrepresent things, then you can kind of be like an expert in that subject or something like it. Like, you can be somebody who people come to for information on that subject, and that becomes very valuable, and that helps us to like further, I don't know, understand what the fuck is really happening versus like, you know, going with whatever the latest, wherever the wind blows in the information space. Like when I go to CPA and I'm around a bunch of journalists and they're talking, saying dumb shit about AI, and I'm like, fucking, I'm about to tell Globus about this, like, because like, I don't know, I know that like, not only can you relate in terms of thinking that they're being ridiculous, but also like you could help distill, and you also know people who could help process what they're saying. Why are they saying it? What's the real information, so that I know how to respond to it in the future or whatever.
Mhm.
1 second, real quick. My dog keeps scratching on the door, and I need to let her out. 1
Yeah.
second.
Oh, do you? What up, no, Greg? Yeah, any amount of organization is worthwhile. And I think as entertaining, like this is my personal opinion. Doesn't apply, and grain of salt. I'm just some dude on the internet. No one has to change their ways. You don't have to feel bad about whatever, your favorite Twitch streamer is. But the some of the variety streaming aspects are like, feel like
The
it's just,
potential and the peril here are huge.
thank you for the follow. Are a, like, you're getting inundated with information. You know what I mean? I was just referring to Levelhead about like Twitch streams, right? Like where a streamer is going to stream for 6 to 8 hours, and like they're going to cover a variety of subjects, and they're going to move from subject to subject, and like that, and that can, especially if you're in there day after day, you can get overloaded with unactionable information, right? Like that there is valuable in balance of not only that, but like to find someone who is doing a particular thing, and like be able to see if that's something that you might want to do as well. I'm waiting for the, like, I advertise myself as the #1 AI news and commentary channel on Twitch because I'm the only one. I'm waiting for #2. I'm waiting for someone to step up, and occupy that space as well. It just hasn't happened,
It's yeah. It's surprising, honestly, that there's not more commentary on AI on here. I mean, like, Twitch unfortunately doesn't lend itself towards like, maybe it's the audience. I don't know. Like, maybe this could change. This is why I've been focusing on like, or at least talking about trying to network and trying to like expand the audience a little bit. Is like, it just, the way that I guess particularly politics streams or news commentary or any of those things have gone is like, you can't really just be talking about one person thing. Like, you have to just do all the shit. Like, you have to react to like all the current news. That's the formula right now.
Mhm.
React to the current news, have commentary about it, right? And then, whatever else you have is like filler, really. That's how you get viewers, because people want to talk about what's happening right now. And of course, it gets to that whole like, I guess it gets to that whole issue that happens with broadcast media, right? Which is like, it's all about what's happening now. But like, some things are happening now and will be happening tomorrow, and they'll be happening a year from now, but they won't be the #1 news story. So what about all the shit that's still happening that we talked about a year ago? Like, what about the fucking train explosion? Remember that? Remember how crazy that was?
Right.
And like, nobody's talking about that right now. But like, what the fuck is happening with that? For real. I think wasn't there just a big like train derailment? Another one?
I know that train derailments. What we found out at that time that story broke was that train derailments are unfortunately more common than we were given to understand and just
The
underreported.
potential and the peril here
Yeah, no, there
are
was one on
huge.
Thanksgiving. Oh wow, this is a lovely image. Officials have determined a failed wheel bearing caused the train derailment that resulted in the evacuation in Rockcastle County. 2 of the 16 rail cars came off the tracks, were carrying molten sulfur. Bro, I don't know. 2,500 tons of impacted soil. Okay, whatever. Just a little spill, just a little toxic waste spills, but no biggie. Could have been way worse, as we know from recent developments.
Yeah.
Whole damn city. Yep. Yeah. So like, but even with that kind of shit, it's like, I don't know. I guess that's like sort of talking about audience here. Like, I think it's cool that you talk about AI and you're up to speed on it, because at the end of the day, none of us can know all this shit, right? Like, there's just no way. You have to pick and choose your energy. So if you're somebody who's focusing on that, like when that comes up for me as a reporter, as sort of like a general, somebody reports on all these general topics, like I can come to you and you can help me parse through information,
Hmm.
and then I can step away and be like, all right, I'm going over here to do this. You know, I guess you can specialize in information, and you should. Like, if for people who want to specialize and they want to be like, they want to be able to talk knowledgeably about something, that's great. Or you could be somebody like me who is like so ADHD and like so like general knowledge, like jack of all trades type of person. Like, not that you aren't. It seems like you kind of do that too, but like, at least in the information space, like I'm just bouncing around from like expert to expert, like trying to, you know, trying to get the, trying to translate things. Like ultimately, that's where my job is. Like translate things from like very knowledgeable about subjects, understands all the context, to like how to make how to make everyone else understand
Hmm.
without and this is where it's hard, without giving them like the wrong idea, because oftentimes that's where the disconnect happens, is like even in trying to report on something, you end up with a bunch of people who just think that fucking Skynet's here, and you're like, but that's not what I said, but okay. That's how
Yeah.
it goes.
I think that the people who do the Skynet meme in my chat are memeing. I hope that is
Right,
the
right,
case
right.
at this point, but
I'm talking
occasionally,
about people here. Like I'm talking about like
yeah.
normal people I would normally meet. I guess if they're saying Skynet, they probably are joking. But the journalists at CPA were not joking when they were talking about. I don't know. They didn't say Skynet, but fuck it, they might as well have.
Hmm. And like, it is a valid concern, right? Like,
Yeah, fair.
beyond just people losing their jobs and trying
Yes.
to survive under capitalism without a job, which is notoriously challenging. Um, there's also the concern, and it's a valid concern, that like we talked with this centralizing of news, the centralizing of a lot of things under artificial intelligence, like,
Yeah.
where if I can get it from a particular piece of AI, then I don't need to have the people, and that can lead us to scenarios where we have a less of a diversity of information. The only information we get is from, a very few sources. And like, theoretically, the tools of AI, like you say, with the idea of the citizen journalist or the citizen reporter, you can set up a free website. There's a lot of AI tools that are available for free to help you with your production. they like if you probably have a phone. If you're watching this, you probably have a phone that you could record on and take notes on and all that kind of stuff. There is an opportunity, I think, that while the established media, such as it is, could be reaching a point where more and more people within that space are going to find work harder and harder to come by. There will be opportunities for individuals, even like yourself, who are more freelance and, have the ability to find something that they like that they want to report on and dog after it. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, or even like a broader category. I think it's pretty um, common, like even within local journalism, especially when we had more robust, like local newspapers with, multiple reporters, not just one. Like that you would have beats, right? Like, and I sort of do have beats. Like I cover local government and like environmental stories are usually my thing. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I really need to pursue that because like this week to week shit is just very stressful. And like what I ideally would be doing is getting a grant fund, like getting a grant or something and reporting on like, I'm just gonna, I need to just go into the cave for like 3 months and then I'll emerge with my fucking stack of papers, like hair all crazy. Like, I figured it out. Yeah, that's what I would like to do is not totally that. I still need to go outside or whatever, but like
Well, it's winter.
hey, I
There's
went to
no
my
grass to touch. I'm sorry?
what?
I said it's winter. There's no grass to touch.
Right, just snow. There's fucking snow, dude. It's so cold. I don't know why, if it's because I lost weight or what, but like I'm so fucking cold. I'm like, holy shit. Have I just been okay with this? Like it's cold as fuck. My skin is like feels like ice. I'm like, nah. Like I got layers on and everything. I'm like, I used to put on layers and think like, wow, I'm great. All I need is layers. Now I'm like, no, I'm still cold. My hands are fucking cold. How am I supposed to layer that? Can't. So I just need to get like spray on gloves. You know what I mean? Like in body with a chance of meatballs. Just constant, something that keeps me perfectly warm.
Yeah, you finally come over to my side, and once winter comes, it just gets into the bones, and it's gonna be like this forever until like April.
And now, oh, there's another. So my kids are like 4 and 2, and like they want to go play in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's great. Let's do it. And then I'm like, so then we spend like however fucking long getting their snow equipment on. It's like a ridiculous amount of time. I'm like we spend more time dealing with your snow equipment than we do outside. And then like, there's the inevitable screaming because like you fell down and your glove fell off and there's snow, or like you threw snow in your sibling's face or whatever. Like, and like, that's not my favorite thing. And I was like, it's just, oh yeah. And then like, I totally can relate to like my son, like, he'll get like overwhelmed from sensory things. And like,
Mhm.
I totally get that with snow gear. It's like, there's so many ways. Like, when you're trying to put on a fucking glove and like, you can't, like, it's a little wet and you can't get your finger like in the right, like as an adult, like I know I can like work through this. I've been frustrated as an adult. Like, when you can't get your pinky
Yeah.
in, like it's stuck and you're like, it's so frustrating. But like he's 4 and he's just like he can't. He's just like he's screaming and shit. But like I'm like, we have to get your glove on. You gotta have a glove. And he's like and he's crying and like he hates it. But I'm like, he also wants to go outside, so
Right.
it's like yay, snow. And then today, like we got a ton of snow. And then I went to like leave today and I forgot that like I haven't cleared the snow off my car. So
Mhm.
that was fun. But luckily it wasn't Luckily, it stayed cold enough that it didn't like partially melt and then refreeze, because that's the worst. Like when you
Yep.
get like a chunk of ice on your windshield, then you just like call your boss like, yeah, so I'm not coming to work today. Just kidding. I'm gonna be very late, or I'm gonna sit here and I'll just shatter my windshield. Okay, I'll just kick that bitch out, bundle up, pretend I'm on a motorcycle.
I used to have a work van when I did glass block windows as a job, and it had no heat in it. So when I was driving in the wintertime, I had like my face needed to be all covered up because my breath would fog up the front window and I would just be fucked. Oh,
That sucks.
so yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing as you get older and you look back on it, especially in the now where we're more concerned about especially when you have children and like that and you understand what they're going through regarding sensory issues or like being uncomfortable or these kind of things, and I mean uncomfortable in this is like, and then you see it in yourself and you're like, oh, I just got used to that suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just learned. It's like, oh, you're right. You're so right. This sucks. I hate it. I hate it too. I want to scream about it. I just can't anymore. But I feel you, dog. But you're not wrong. It's fucking annoying, but you just got to deal with it, I guess. That's part of life. It sounds harsh. I don't know. It's like that's where I try to. I don't know. I try to like think about where the line is, like where are things normalized in terms of like you just got to deal with it, where it shouldn't be. And like that's just what people have said, but it shouldn't. Nobody should be telling you that you should deal with it. Actually, society's fucked up. This thing is wrong. You're right. Like it's you bitching and moaning and complaining is like valid, where other times it's just like, no, you're just a kid, like get the fuck over it. You can't have fruit snacks right before bed.
Yeah, that's always the balancing act, especially in the now. Like I'm certain when I was coming up, it was less of a thing, but it's like how many of the things that we take for granted as like you just have to deal with it are actually like, no, we should not be dealing with this, and I don't I don't want to raise my kid to survive in the world that I grew up in, not only because did that world suck, but like that world doesn't even exist anymore. Like we have
Right.
AI and shit. Why does my kid have to deal with some of
It's
this
such an
crap?
important consideration. Yeah, like I thought about that a lot just growing up or like as a teenager, where it's like when I was just trying to justify my know-it-all stage of like being 14 and like starting to want to argue about shit. Like I remember thinking about how like, well, at the end of the day, like sure, my parents have experience or whatever bullshit, but like like they don't have my experience exactly. Like they weren't raised in the context of the society that I'm in. So you have to balance between those, because yeah, like ultimately you don't necessarily know what your kids are going through,
Mm-hmm.
and they see you probably better. Like they probably understand you in ways that it takes a lot of self reflection to like ever understand. They help me understand myself. That's one thing. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and my parents. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I understand dots connecting. Oh, repressed memory comes back. Like, dude, nothing really prepares you for that. But I guess like that was something else I was gonna say about like relating back to like information and truth, but I don't remember it.
Well, if you think of it, you know where to find me.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on within that topic?
I don't think so. No, I think that this is a conversation that could, you know, extend into like we could go on about it. I think that like I guess what might be interesting moving forward is like maybe something we could do is if there's a particular article
Mhm.
or something where that sort of thing comes up, like what you had asked me about originally, or something where you want to examine it from the like journalism perspective. It could be a
Mhm.
video too. Like I don't know, like some AI thing. Like we could maybe like sit down and examine it from the reporting component, like how accurate is it, or what bias are they approaching it with, or anything like that.
Mhm.
So, if that comes up, or something like that comes up, let me know. We could maybe try and do that.
Yeah. And like as always, I'm available if you ever want to have a conversation about anything. AI is my specialty, but I'm available for conversations about whatever.
Yeah, I think that on that thing we were just talking about, it got kind of, it got postponed or whatever. But I do think that we should do the panel on or broader discussion on parenting stuff because
Mhm.
that I think that could be pretty interesting. So, but yeah, I'll let you know what the plan is moving forward in terms of future discussions or whatever. And likewise, like if you want to chat, hit me up.
Yeah. I think that there needs to be like just be the change you want to see in the world, right? Like I think there needs to be more good conversation between people as opposed to I'm gonna get this dude and I'm gonna absolutely wreck him. It's like
Hmm.
if that's your thing, go. It's out there. You can find it. But there needs to be an alternative to that. Just like there needs to be variety streamers who are talking about like all the different topics, and there needs to be people that you find a passion for a particular subject matter, and you just dial in on that. And to all the people who might want to stream, remember, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a straight line. The first like 6 months, 5, 6 months of my streaming career, I was kind of all over the place. I had a variety of different stuff. I do enjoy the conversation. I think those were some of my strongest streams, but it wasn't
Yeah.
until I found AI that I found something I could do on the regular. And I feel like it's starting to come together in the sense that, like, more people are showing up organically as opposed to like through raids and stuff like that.
Yep. No, that's a big thing. Like, I think even with me, I'm still figuring my shit out. Like, in terms of what I do on stream, like, because I've been all over the place, and I think that's fine. I would agree that people should expect that. I guess some people will get into whatever their niche is right away, but like, I also think that you should be experimenting and exploring because, like, at the end of the day, this space just needs more diversity of content types and like shows and like creativity in that space as opposed to all being the same shit, which to me feels like oftentimes it is. That like there's not a lot of interviews, there's not a lot of discussions, there's not a lot of like interesting um, panels or game shows or any of that kind of stuff. Like I think
Mhm.
there should be a lot more of that. Um, yeah. So, but yeah, I'd agree. Like it's not a straight line at all.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, homie. And are you gonna start streaming soon?
Yes, I am.
All right. Then I
I'll be doing.
will.
Well, go working and writing this article that I have for tomorrow's deadline.
Right on. Right on. Then I
So
will raid into you after I'm done.
cool, cool.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Take care, my friend. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. Did. Am. Both post and time is an illusion and lunchtime doubly so. Remember that. But yeah. Be what you want to see. This is your space. This is the best advice I think I can give all the chatters, right? Like, you literally drive the content because streamers are going to talk about whatever they talk about, whether it's news, whether it's variety, whether it's politics, whether it's artificial intelligence. Exactly. You're picking up what I'm laying down. And a lot of that will, depend on attendance. If you want something different in the space, do your best to find it. When you find it, tell people about it. And when you show up to whatever kind of content, that is the content that the streamer is going to lean into more, because we are, numbers-based people. They're more or less, depending on their individual circumstances and all that. But like, I try to avoid looking at the numbers for like validation. My concern is that I want people to know about AI, to understand what's actually going on, to get away from a lot of the propaganda, the bias, different people, right, left, tech bro, hippie, whatever you got, right? Like, everybody's got an opinion on it, what it is, what it does, how it's going to impact the world and everything else. And I try to tell you straight up what my biases are, the world that I want to see, but like when I'm approaching whatever the piece of content is, I try to do it as like charitably as possible. Create a space where conversation can be had and not argument and debate. I just want better for all of us, you know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. So, and a lot of that, depends on you as well. You validate the streamer in that sense. What up, Peter? What up to everybody who came through and I didn't acknowledge you? Normally I do that, but by the same token, when I am doing the interview type format, I tend to focus on talking to the other person. For better or worse, that's what it is, and that's what's going to happen. So it's 7:52. I'm looking to wrap by 8. We're not going to get into any videos today. We will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. My normal schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. If this is your first time here, you can hit that follow button. As far as I know. Yeah. And that's the thing, is I like my what up, Heavy Steel? My whole format tends to be more towards that podcast kind of thing, where like you can throw me on in the background. If chat's moving because they're having a conversation, or they're, talking about what's going on or whatever they're doing, cool. If chat isn't moving because we're just like doing the thing, oh, I like it so much. Hey, that's something I could give you. Check this out. Check what my man did. Where was that? Is that in general? Wasn't in general. This is the only thing. Art, thank you. All right. Listen up. I'm going to do the one that's not a duet. It's not easy being green. Having to spend each day the color of leaves. When I think it might be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that. It's not easy being green. Seems you blend in with so many other ordinary things. And people tend to pass you over because you're not standing out like flashy sparkles in the water or stars in the sky. I am in awe I'm really in awe
Green
of
is the color of spring.
what AI, the voice stuff is capable of.
And friendly like. And green can be big like a mountain, or important like a river, or tall like a tree. When green is all there is to be, it could make you wonder why. But why wonder? Why wonder? I'm green, it'll do fine. It's beautiful. And I think it's what I want to be.
And I grew up on that, right? Like that was created in my lifetime, like the original and all that. So like that, and I love Kermit and I love Kermit songs. So I really appreciate it, Old Lobster. It was great. I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate all of you, chat, showing up and like that. We're gonna head on over to Levelhead. Drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always, always remember, Shuggy loves you.